All right, guys, welcome back to the first gambling episode of the 2025 season. I'm here with Yanni again. How's it going, man?
What is going on, dude? I'm so excited to get our first picks into the year.
Oh yeah. So little update for the results of last season because we never did like a summary video. And I'll go ahead and throw it up on like the screen here so you guys can see it. Our final results last year though were that Yanni had a game and a half on me in terms of total record, so he won. He picked more games correctly than me, and I won on the profit and loss. I'll just chalk that up to getting lucky on a couple parlays, but good performance from old Yanni boy here. I know early on he was saying that he's a rookie at this, but I I like your picks now, man. I think you're figuring it out. It's not too hard, is it?
It's hard, but it's also really rewarding to put the time in and to, see what comes up. I'm having a great time, dude. This has become one of my favorite things to do in all of fantasy and football is sit there and comb through the spreads and find what I like that week.
Yeah, man. Even living in California, I do it every week. That way, if I'm
Yeah,
ever in
yeah,
a state that is gambling, I'm ready to go.
yep.
I guess let's just get into the picks for this week because we don't have a summary for last week because this is week one. So this week I'm riding with the Bengals -1.5. That's going to be the first leg of my parlay. I'm going with the Lions money line. The Lions are underdogs in week one of the 2025 season. That's shocking to me, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm taking the Rams -3. That's the second leg of my parlay. I'm taking the Ravens -1.5. That's going to be a ball knower quiz. And I'm taking the Vikings -1.5. Last year, they destroyed me. This Vikings team absolutely killed me. Betting against them all year. Week one, I don't want to be doing the same thing again. I'm taking them. If the parlay hits, it returns $352.70. The single games could return a total of $607.83. On a perfect 5-0 week, it would be $960.53. The ticket cost is $400 because there's one $100 parlay with the Bucks and Rams. And like I said, we're starting at scratch here. Totally blank slate. Stoked to be in the green.
Okay, I'm taking big favorites this week. I don't know. It doesn't feel amazing, but I like all three of them. I'm taking the Cardinals -6.5 versus the Saints. Taking the Bengals -5.5 on the road with the Browns. Taking the Broncos -8.5 at home versus the Titans. And then me and Ted are riding together on the Lions money line and the Ravens -1.5. Uh, Total parlay return nothing. I'm not parlaying anything this week. We'll see. If I need to make up a gap at some point, I'll start messing around with it. Total return $1,002.02, and total cost $500, $100 a bet. 0-0. It's a fresh slate to start the year.
All right, so we'll get into the first game here. It's the Cardinals versus the Saints, and this is a Yanni pick. So take it away, my man.
Yeah, so the Cardinals are a favorite with sharp money, not with the public by a little bit, but Cardinals -6.5 at the Saints. They have 64% of the total dollars bet as opposed to 45% of the numerical bets. There's a little bit of a whale lean there. I wouldn't call it massive, but there's certainly a whale lean there. As the year goes on, we'll show you guys the record against the spread or the record covering the over under. But before we get into these, but there's nothing to cover there, and we will have like actual offensive and defensive rankings as the year goes on. For now, it is just the Bleacher Report defensive rankings and offensive rankings being shown. But still, I think the Saints are pretty universally considered a bottom three defense and bottom three offense, if not the bottom of both of those barrels. Um, me and Ted have been talking about all year. He could not stomach the idea of round four Alvin Kamara or round seven Chris Olave. 2 to 3 rounds discounted from where they've been going. Chris Olave 5 rounds discounted this summer. And actually, I couldn't either because I came away with no redraft shares simply because this is a first overall pick contending team. And I actually love Kellen Moore. If I were the Eagles, I would have kept Kellen Moore and let Nick Sirianni walk. Kellen Moore has been one of my favorite play callers for like 5 years in the NFL. I just I don't know what they're working with here, dude. I think the Cardinals made serious improvement on the defense in terms of the draft. I think they had a really good just free agency and draft, right? I think Marvin Harrison Jr. takes a year or two leap. I think we might, dude, if Trey McBride starts actually scoring touchdowns, you might see Trey McBride ascend into like prime Gronkowski, Kelsey, Tony Gonzalez type production. I think the Cardinals are undervalued based on where they finished last year. I think they're going to take a leap forward this year. I think they are a legit football team. I think their defense is going to look a lot better. I think their offense looks a lot better. And if you're telling me they're going against a bottom one or two offense and defense in the Saints, dude, I don't think this game's going to stay within a touchdown. I don't think it's going to be a competitive football game. Um, is there a little bit of a risk of a backdoor cover? Maybe, maybe. But I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to take it all day. What James Conner might go for 195 yards this week. Like I just don't see it. I see so many paths to the Cardinals beating the shit out of the Saints. Very comfortable with this bet. I was actually surprised that I didn't see Ted in on it with me.
Yeah, listen. You did not sell my dislike of this Saints team short. I think they might be one of the absolute worst teams we've
Yeah.
seen in a long time here. We're gonna have an idea after week 17, but I think this is a blatant tank year for them. Their books were all messed up, like just financially, from the end of the Sean Payton era. They paid way too many guys too much money that did not return value. And this is what happens when you kind of go win now and it doesn't work out. You get screwed financially down the road, and we're seeing that now. The Saints starting Tyler Shuck, or not Tyler Shuck, sorry, they're starting Spencer
Rattler.
Rattler, and Shuck is right behind him, right? Like I think this is like potentially one of the worst quarterback situations we've seen since. I mean, Jacoby Brissett starting week one last year was also really horrendous for the Patriots, but at least they had like Drake May, the top three pick, like backing him up. The Saints have no one. Tyler Shuck, like I get that he was picked in the second round, but he looks awful to me. He doesn't look ready. If you can't beat out Spencer Rattler, even if you're a rookie, I don't care. It seems like he's probably not going to pan out. So, by all accounts, if the Cardinals do not cover this number, I think it would be a massive disappointment for them, right? Like the Cardinals, by all accounts, should be beating the Saints by a touchdown minimum. I
Yep.
didn't do the bet though because it's a big number and I don't know what the deal with Kyler Murray is. And I don't know what the deal with this Cardinals defense is. Last year, the Cardinals graded near the bottom of defending the pass. They were really bad at it. Like their entire defense is like Buda Baker, and like no one else is good on that unit. So it feels like you kind of went in on fading a terrible team, which I get. I love doing that, and I think there's a lot of money in that, like just as like a general betting method, right? But I kind of want to see it first from the Cardinals. Last year, I think I was probably too bullish on them and had a bad read, and I think Kyler's playing for his job this year, so I just thought there were five other games on the board that I liked a little bit better. By all accounts, though, like I think yours hits. Like if I had to play it, I would play Cardinals here, but 6.5, it's a large number. I could totally see some awful backdoor cover happening. But I mean, the good news is you did get a decent number in 6.5, right? You're not at -7.5, so they at least gave you the hook on that side. So not awful, but we'll see, man. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. The Saints 32nd in offensive rank last year and 31st in defensive rank, and that was with some Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I'm not a Derek Carr believer or truther or thought that he was any good, but at least he was like an NFL level quarterback, right? What they're rolling out this year,
Yep.
yikes.
Yep. I feel good about that one. I feel less good about this one, but I don't know, man. Maybe I just have to keep getting my hand burned on the stove because last year, if I recall correctly, I missed a 5-0 week. I think I remember what it was, Ted. I think it was like week 4 or 5, and I had a great week going. And what blew it for me was the Bengals away at the Browns. I believe it was -7.5. That no, yeah, I gotta go back and look at it. There was something funny where the Bengals absolutely screwed me against a divisional opponent because I took them by roughly a touchdown. I'm doing it again here. Bengals -5.5 at the Browns. Look, it's kind of risky business taking a sort of big number against a divisional home opponent, but I don't. I mean, I don't know. Is 5.5 a big number? Two field goals or a touchdown to cover with the Bengals, the way their offense is. I really don't. I don't feel like that's risky business. Maybe I'm wrong. The Browns don't have Quinshon Judkins back yet. They're going to rely a lot on Jerry Jeudy and Njoku. Does Dylan Sampson or Jerome Ford give him something in the run game? Maybe, maybe. But I don't know if either of them are world beaters. And I don't think the public or the whales agree with the Browns either. 59% of total bets have gone against the spread in favor of the Bengals, and 72% of every dollar bet against the spread has gone in favor of the Bengals. We will see. So what Ted was hammering me on a little bit about in the pre-production meeting was how the Jacoby Brissett New England Patriots, I believe they outright beat the Bengals last week as 5.5 or 6.5 point dogs, and I believe I had the Bengals there too. There is a well-established narrative about Zach, about the Bengals, about all of them. They come out really slow and sluggish. They just don't look right. I think they made a concerted effort this preseason to get them a bunch of live bullet reps when they were playing, other teams. Remember, we had to watch Joe Burrow run for his life out there. I think they tried to get him a little lubed up, a little ready to go, right? I don't know, man. I just feel like there's no way. They have T. Higgins, they have Chase, they have Brown, and they've said they retooled their offense to feature Chase Brown and what he does best. I think that's too much. I think those guys can win by 6 points over Joe Flacco and Jerry Jeudy. If I go down this week with that ship, I will go down. And it's a ship that's gone down before. I'm aware. I'm taking the risk. I know the risk. I'm taking the risk. It just I wish we had more figures for you guys this week, but it's week one. These are vibes based bets, and I feel like the Bengals offense takes a turn this year. I feel like the Bengals offense might be. I feel like Joe Burrow's live for 55 touchdowns and like 5,500 yards this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see like the prime peak Peyton Manning performance from Joe Burrow. And that defense is going to be so bad, he's going to have to do it. Offensive rank of 6 coming into the year, defensive rank of 24. I think it might be lower than 24 to be very honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if this defense is a bottom 5 defense this year. But the Browns have a projected offensive rank of 27, defensive rank of 20. They're always kind of a mid-range defense. I'm gonna take the chances here. I like the odds that Joe Burrow can outperform Joe Flacco to the tune of 6 points or more. What do you think, Ted? Did I step in it again this year?
Well, this is another one where I feel like if the Bengals do not cover this number of 5.5, which it's a large spread like by betting standards, but like in the NFL, this Bengals team should be beating a Browns team by 6 points or more to me, right? It's just how the Bengals have started their years the last 2 years. I just picked 5 other games I liked a little better, right? The Bengals are aware that they suck week one. That's why they had
Yeah.
Joe Burrow playing in the preseason this year. And I mean, if you want to look at this year compared to last year, you don't have a Jamar Chase holdout, which is I think extremely important. Right? You had the Trey Hendrickson holdout, but I think their defense was going to suck anyways. For me, if the Browns are going to be able to cover this number, I think it would be off the strength of their defensive line, taking advantage of a not very good Bengals offensive line, right? Like Myles Garrett's going to have to get in there and really mess with Joe Burrow to keep this game close, I think. And then another underrated part, I think, of this game is it obviously feels bad for the Browns. I think if Joe Flacco was your day one starting quarterback at 70 years old, but I don't know how much of a downgrade that is from Deshaun Watson last year. So I feel like they're just kind of in the same spot offensively. And I think the combination of Sampson and Ford at this time isn't that much worse than, one leg Nick Chubb. So by all accounts, I like the pick. I just, the trend scared me a little bit. You are picking against a home divisional dog. That is something that we don't have the figures right now in front of us, but like that's like a macro bet that you make. A lot of times these divisional matchups do get weird and a little bit closer than they should be. I think about the Steelers and Ravens every year. Procedurally, I will always bet the Ravens in that every time, no matter what, but it bites me in the ass constantly. So I don't know. I think that you have the right side here. If I had to pick a side, I would pick the Bengals too. I was just a little freaked out and figured there was 5 other games on the slate. But I mean, with the 59 72 split where like more big dogs are like betting on the Bengals, it seems like it's probably a sharp pick to not be so scared.
So if you had to guess, what is Joe Flacco pacing for in passing yards? His 17 game pace from his last whatever handful of starts the last 2 years. What would you guess his 17 game pace has been for passing yards?
I mean, I know that he was good in his last stint with the Browns, but on the Colts last year he was terrible. So I'm sure it's probably some weird number. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it was like he's pacing for 4,000 yards or something. If you're taking it like
44. He's been pacing for 4,400 yards since 2023. like his per game pace of 17 games would be 4,400 yards. So I think you're right. I think Joe Flacco is a huge upgrade over Deshaun Watson. I non-ironically think that.
I
We'll
didn't
see.
even call it a huge upgrade. I think it's more neutral than anything else, man. Like, I don't know that the majority of that 4,400 yards you're talking about to me, right, is when he was on the Browns last time. I think he had another year against Father Time, and if you don't
Yeah.
look good in that Colts offense that he was in last year, like I kind of think you don't have it anymore. But I don't think that Deshaun Watson had it either. So moot point. All right, next one. This one is mine. We got the Buccaneers going into Atlanta to play the Falcons, and I'm riding with Baker and the Bucks. Even though I'm riding with them, the public does not like this bet. Only 39% of total bets are on the Buccaneers against the spread, and even less dollars are bet on the Bucks here. Only 30% of the total dollars against the spread. So apparently I fell backwards into a fade the public play. Last year the Bucks ranked third in offense and 18th in defense, so I think we know this Baker Mayfield Bucks offense has been back, and I expect it to be relatively similar to how they were last year, finding success. On the other side, this Falcons offense ranked 12th last year in the league, which is honestly surprising to me. I'm shocked they're that high. But their defensive rank was 28th last year. So I guess just kind of quick thoughts as to why I picked this game. I think that there's entirely too much respect going on right now for the Atlanta Falcons and what they are as a football team. In fantasy this year, a big giant thing, or I guess storyline that's been going on is how all these Falcons players, specifically Bijan and Drake London, have been vaulting up draft boards. Everyone has a very good outlook on this Falcons team because it looks like they might have a legitimate quarterback, right? The Falcons the last 2 years have had to deal with Desmond Ritter and one-legged Kirk Cousins at quarterback. So if Michael Penix is able to return value, I guess, or be a good to very good NFL quarterback, I think this Falcons offense should look a lot better. And I think I mean, if they were 12th last year, I think top 10 if Penix is good is probably a pretty fair guess, right? The main reason I'm taking this though, right? I think that -1.5. I only lose this bet if the Buccaneers like only win by 1 point, right? That's the only like situation the Bucks win the game, but I don't cover. So I think the number is pretty solid, and I think that just when you look at these two teams, I don't have any questions about the Buccaneers offense being able to find success against this bottom tier Falcons unit. I get Raheem Morris is the head coach of the Falcons, but we didn't see much improvement on their defensive end last year. And to me, Baker looks good. I think that obviously Chris Godwin is out with an injury, and Jalen McMillan is going to be out until like week 10. But they went ahead and drafted Emeka Egbuka in the top 15 this year. I think a lot of people were asking, why did they draft him? They already have a bunch of receivers there. And sure enough, he's going to be a critical piece, I think, this week, tearing up a Falcons defense that hasn't been good. And then for the Falcons side, I don't think we've seen enough Penix yet, right? Like I get that he looked good in the last 3 games of last year. I think the Falcons offense, like if you had Drake London last year and you were in a Week 18 fantasy championship, that probably felt very good for you. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about that, but this Bucks team by no accounts is like just a dumpy defense, right? They've historically been really good at stopping the run, which I think the Falcons are probably going to want to do to help their pseudo rookie quarterback in Penix. So I think it's gonna if the Falcons are going to win this game or cover the spread here, it's going to have to be Penix throwing it like all around the yard. And just with 3 games against like bottom tier defenses last year, I think that the value is to just bet on this Bucks team here. I don't know what I missed. Really, I'm shocked that this much of the public and this many bettors are going in on the Falcons here. It just feels like a little premature, I guess, to be as excited as they are to pick over a team in the Bucks that have been good for like the past 3 years, really, right? Like, when's the last time the Bucks haven't been good? I don't know. What do you think, Yanni? Did I step in it here? I know you like the Bucks. Like, you're a Bucks guy. You have been for a while.
Huge fan of the Bucks this year. Huge fan of the Falcons this year, honestly. I mean, well, so you are picking right against sort of some trends. You have the home underdog and the Falcons. Um, yeah, so I think if I had to guess, I would guess the numbers a few things. One, I just think there's a lot of Falcons hype this year. Like, People are just excited about the Falcons. Two, the Falcons have an extremely good secondary. That's where all their talent is defensively, and they added some D linemen in the first round. So I think the belief is right that they'll be able to lock up Igbuka and Evans. The thing about it, though, that so the Falcons are rolling out as their nickel corner who's going to take Igbuka in this matchup, a converted safety who was like bottom third of college in coverage rating last year. I don't know why they are trying to start him at the slot, but they are. Dude, Egbuka might, I mean, smash those props on the over for Egbuka this week. He is getting a converted safety who couldn't cover in college in his first week in the slot. So I think that the public and bettors are overvaluing the Falcons secondary a little bit, where I think they're actually pretty vulnerable to what Egbuka is going to do. But I mean, you do have what? So the Buccaneers are out 3 of their top 5 pass catchers. I understand being a little cautious with that or a little weird about it, but the Falcons are missing 2 linemen. If I had to bet it, I would bet the Buccaneers here, but it's just a stay away from me because I think it's there's so many things that could happen in this game that I could see. I could see the Falcons going and putting up 45 points. I could see the Buccaneers putting up 45 points. I could see both of them putting up 45 points. You know what I mean? So that to me, it was just a stay away because there's so many factors that I couldn't really balance them and come up with a conclusion there. It's just more so, I love so many players on both sides of this game that I'm really excited for it. And then the Buccaneers, I think a really big question that I am wondering about, dude, they went from Dave Canales to Liam Cohen. Like that is really, and I mean, really before that, was that after Bruce Arians left? Did they go
Yep.
Bruce Arians so they went Bruce Arians to Dave Canales to Liam Cohen. Think about that incredible string of offensive minds that they put together. Are we sure they're going to do a fourth one of those in a row? And I know the guy is actually, I believe he was from Cohen's staff. I believe he was their quarterbacks coach last year, their new OC. And he looks competent from what I could tell in preseason. I'm just saying that I think there's also some questions about, dude, that level of to go 4 in a row like that, are they going to find another smash offensive coordinator? Maybe. But Bruce Arians, Liam Cohen, and Dave Canales are 3 of the great offensive minds in the last decade of NFL football. Like, I think we shouldn't just take for granted that the Buccaneers offense copy and paste this year. I think they may have some growing pains early on.
Well, we'll see. All right.
Okay, more big numbers. Although this one actually, I'm pretty comfortable ripping. I obviously wish it was 6.5, but I think they've got this. Titans going to the Broncos, -8.5 favorite for the Broncos at home. Really big whale lean and a slight public lean here. 54% of total bets against the spread went on the Broncos. 87% of all the dollars bet have gone toward the Broncos in this game. Look, it's pretty simple. I love Cam Ward. I keep saying I have this old dude phrase that keeps popping in my head when I hear Cam Ward talk. It's like, what a buttoned up young man the guy is. He just seems like a nice fella. Like, I don't know, dedicated, hardworking. He's leading study groups before the game. He's a religious dude. I love Cam Ward. I went in on Ridley this year. I wish I could have gotten some Pollard. He slid all the way up to the mid-4th round on Yahoo. Unfortunately, I couldn't draft a lot of Pollard this year. I actually drafted none in redraft. I love the Titans this year. I love their outlook and all that. This is just the worst possible starting situation. They're going in altitude to the Broncos. The Broncos have a projected top 5 line, projected top 1 overall defensive ranking. Last year, their offense took leaps and bounds. It was kind of flirting with being a top half of the league offense. Do they take a step up this year? They added RJ Harvey. They added linemen. They added J.K. Dobbins. They added a rookie receiver who's really promising. It looks like Marvin Mims is going to take a prominent role. They added Evan Ingram. I think all signs are pointing way up for the Broncos. They played the Chiefs down to the wire multiple times last year. Sean Payton is without a doubt one of the most competent minds in the sport. Is Callahan, maybe. I like his scheme a lot. That's why I was drafting round 15 Will Levis last year. That's why I'm drafting Ridley and Pollard. This is just the worst possible rollout for a rookie quarterback. They do come in with a projected offensive and defensive rank of 30 and 30. Again, I think they're very live to outperform that. By how much, I don't know. Yeah. Oh God, dude, you have, the death match at corner. It's going to lock up Ridley. I feel very good. I feel very solid in this bet. I think this game might get out of hand pretty quickly. In terms of, I think the Titans are really going to struggle to even hit 17 points here. I think 17 points I would consider a pretty big win for them. Just all things considered, what they're going into. Buy low on your Titans players after this week. Don't lose faith in Cam Ward. If you see people trashing Cam on social media, they don't know ball. He is being asked to do something almost impossible. Kind of excited to see two of me and Ted's late round best ball guys, Chiga Conquo and Arroyo. Two guys that we became fond of as the best ball season progressed. I definitely have some heavy bags on both. I know Ted has some best ball mania rosters with both, but yeah, just too much too soon. Give me him by 10 points this week. Very comfortable in the bet. I don't even think it's going to be a sweat. What do you think, Ted?
Well, first off, I'd like to lead with I have 44% roster exposure in best ball to Chigaquanquo, so I am very in on the player.
Yeah,
Listen, man, this is another one where it's like I think that the Broncos, if they don't cover this number, it would be like a disappointing afternoon for them, right?
yeah,
For the Titans, I feel like they were so injured last year, and Will Levis is such a donkey that it was not like we can't take any analysis from what that team was. So, I mean, Cam Ward, like he had, you're absolutely right when you talk about this Broncos defense and how they're just going to be beating teams up this year, especially with the way the Titans are constructed, right? With Calvin Ridley really operating as like the primary guy and them having the defensive player of the year, Pat Surtain, just shadow him. That seems like Elik Onamayor or Chigaquanquo are going to have big games if the Titans have any success here. Like, the Broncos are good at stopping the run, right? I would assume the game plan is going to be play up near the line, have Sertan one on one with Ridley and try and stop Pollard, right? And I think if they do that, the Broncos will easily win this game. It's just that with a more competent quarterback, right? I think that we're going to see some of Callahan's like actual offensive planning come to fruition, right? I couldn't tell you how many times last year, especially at the beginning of the year when Will Levis was starting, you would just see Callahan just screaming at Will
yeah,
Levis, "What are you doing?"
yeah,
Calling him a donkey on the sidelines.
yeah.
So it's a big number, right? And I could see a backdoor cover here. I don't feel like this is. I know I said earlier, right? Like you're making a bet against a dumpy team. I don't think the Titans are going to be classified as a dumpy team this year. I really don't. I think there's going to be some stuff to be positive about. It's
Yeah.
just that it is a big number. I could see, especially when you have a quarterback that knows what the fuck he's doing, or at least should have a better idea than Will Levis, that the backdoor cover is live. If I had to pick a side, I'd pick the Broncos here too. It's just that I had five other ones that I liked a little bit more.
Do you think you're not buying that? We've discussed it a lot this offseason. You're not buying the Denver Super Bowl bubble hype, right? You don't
Absolutely
have
not.
them.
I think they're the third best team in the well,
No,
without
absolutely.
without Worthy and Rice. I think that they're the second best team in the division. But if Worthy and Rice are playing, I think that they're like the bronze medal of the AFC West, really, like with what we saw from the Chargers. I think they have a good defense. I think Bo Nix looked promising. I think that people have gotten a little quick on him, though, like as being I don't know, like an elite guy, like is a sports card guy, like the Bo Nix like hype, I guess, like is going crazy. Everyone wants Bo Nix cards. I've heard one guy say, like this is just like a collector, so not really like a ball watcher or anything. He goes, yeah, I think after Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix is probably the best rookie quarterback in this class. Which I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't know. Like I think a
Okay.
lot of the success so far has been Sean Payton. I think being attached to Sean Payton's a good thing for you if you're a quarterback. So we'll see. I still have them. I have the Broncos probably as a playoff team with their defense and having Sean Payton on the team, but by no means should this be a Super Bowl run. I think that's a little ridiculous. But
Yeah. Okay.
Denver has a large fan base, though. I could see them being excited about this year. Right? There's a lot of Broncos fans out there. All right, next we got the Texans going into LA to play the Rams, and I'm taking my favorite player, Jimmy Garoppolo, in the Rams. Jimmy might not be playing in this game, but I think that the moral support that he offers is worth three here. So right now the betting numbers look like this. We have 57% of total bets against the spread on the Texans and 61% of the dollars against the spread bet on the Texans. So I have fallen into another fade the public position here, but I'm happy to do it. the offensive ranks for the Texans last year, they ranked 16th, and on defense, they were ranked fourth in the league in total yards allowed. So that's pretty good. On the Rams side, they were ranked 13th in the league last year in offense, which is middle of the road, and defensively, 14th, middle of the road ish. So I feel like this game to me boils down to just a couple key points. I Right now the Texans offense is just extremely banged up. You have Joe Mixon, who's out for a minimum of 4 games, if not the entire season. We don't know yet. That there's going to be news breaking on that eventually. It sounds like after week 4 we'll get that news. But without Joe Mixon, the Texans' other running back options are Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, and Damian Pierce. So they don't exactly have someone I would feel confident workhorsing in the backfield. And they're also missing Tank Dell for the entirety of the season, which is another just dagger, right? Christian Kirk is also going to be injured and potentially not playing this game. I think he's leaning towards the wrong side of questionable. So really, the Texans' offense is they're going to be asking CJ Stroud behind a very bad offensive line to just be a superhero out there with Nico and rookie Jaden Higgins, which I think that it's going to be a tough task against the Rams team that I feel like their defense isn't great, but you take advantage of them on the ground. Like last year, we saw Saquon like just completely torch this Rams team twice. They're pretty good at getting after the quarterback with guys like Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, Byron Young. Like they have a nice young core of pass rushers, but they're not great at defending the run. I just feel like the personnel for the Texans and what they have available isn't really going to be able to take advantage of that. And with Matt Stafford playing, I get that he's hurt. He has the bad back, and he really, at any point, Matt Stafford is one rough tackle away, in my opinion, from being out for the season. But the way I'm handicapping this is Matt Stafford's going to play. And if he is, man, it just feels like with the Texans' offensive struggles, they're going to be 3 points better in their home barn than the Texans. I have heavy bags on Puka this year in fantasy. I think that we're in to see another breakout season. I think he has like what is it like 10 total touchdowns in his career. I think that's going to definitely improve. You add Devonte Adams to this offense, who came on at the end of last year with Aaron Rodgers, and I think that at this point in their careers, he's a massive upgrade over Cooper Cup. You have Kyron Williams; he just got broken off, so he's going to be there long term. I may not be a fan of the player's talent, I guess. I think Kyron's kind of like mid as a talent, but he does what Sean McVay wants him to do, right? So it just feels like a young defense going up against a banged up Tex version of the Texans offense, and then Stafford being able to steer the ship here led me to the Rams -3. I feel like it's a good number too, right? If it was -3.5, maybe I take a second look at this, but if the Rams only win by a field goal, it's a push. I don't lose money on that, right? You get your money back on that. So I thought that all of those factors considered the Rams were the side here, but apparently the public didn't. So what do you think, Yanni? Do you think that this is like a little reckless of me to be taking a guy with a bad back, one bad back away from Jimmy Garoppolo, the Jimmy Garoppolo experience?
No, if I, in fact, I would guess that the dollars and the bets against the spread reflect the fact that people are a little spooked by Stafford. I don't think if Stafford was, dude, this is a team that was like 25 yards away from beating the Super Bowl champion Eagles at home in a blizzard. Like and I know that like John Middlecoff, obviously our guy, you're a fan of him, I'm a fan of him. John Middlecoff always harps on like people pretend like the Rams are the Eagles or the Chiefs when they're not. They're a 10-win team, but like they're a buttoned up and smooth organization, and they have one of the most like effective offensive units, including adding a rookie tight end that I'm really high on this year. They have like one of the best offensive units in the sport. Um, so yeah, I think it's just spillover from Stafford concern. I told you that, when we line up our bets for the week, I had like 8 of them and I rank them in order and then I try to kind of move them around. I take my top 5. My sixth one that was so close to making this pick was the under on this game. And part of that is, dude, I don't know about the Texans lost like Tunsil this offseason, and they have dude, their offensive line might be garbage, like actual garbage. So can they keep CJ Stroud upright? I don't know. They don't have Joe Mixon. They're going to be relying on the remains of Nick Chubb out there running around, or Woody Marks. catching passes out of the backfield. Jalen Higgins and Noel, who I love. I love Higgins and Noel. I think they're both like fantastic rookie prospects. I think they have real upside there. But Christian Kirk's hamstring's down, so they're relying on two rookies, against one of the more buttoned up operations in football. And then also the Texans secondary is immaculate. One of the best secondaries in the sport. Their rush defense was bottom quarter of the league last year. So, are the Rams happy to just sit there and ground and pound out a game against them and run down the clock, play ball control? I think they might. So yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have the right side of it. I think the only reason we're seeing the money moving the way it is because of spillover from the Stafford concern. And while I am high on, dude, hasn't CJ Stroud has made the playoffs every year he's been in the league, correct? And has he
Minimum divisional round every year.
and has he not won a playoff game every year he's been in the league? I believe he
Yep.
has.
Yes, he has.
So like, dude, like I'm not in any way out on the Texans this year. I just do we want to go bet blindly on that O line, that running game, two rookies as his top two out of three pass catchers? I'm gonna give it a week. I'm gonna give it a week and see. So I think you have the right side.
Yeah, I this version of the Texans offense I think is going to be rough to look at, and I'll just be really dramatic here. If you told me that Matt Stafford was out and Jimmy was the quarterback of the Rams from snap one, I'm still taking the Rams here, and it's still making my top five. I think this is a mismatch. I think that if the Texans were fully healthy, this is actually a fantastic game. I think the Rams kind of boat race them here, but we'll see.
Okay, we're both in on this one since Ted just went. I'll intro it, see what Ted thinks afterward. Lions plus 110 on the money line. You're getting plus money on the Lions, a perennial championship contender for the last 2 to 3 years. From what I can tell, it's because the entire market, the entire NFL world, the entire fan base has just assumed that the Packers have made the leap into Super Bowl contenders this year. Maybe they have. They had the number 5 defense last year. They had Jordan Love, who 2 years ago performed fantastic. Last year took some dips. Is that because of injuries? Is that because of poor decision making? Ted will no doubt touch upon that. But I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves treating the Packers like Super Bowl contenders already. And they are getting the Super Bowl contender treatment, make no mistake about it. But we're sharp here. 49% of total money line bets have been on the Lions. However, 75% of every dollar bet on the money line has gone on the Lions. A 3-1 whale lean here. Obviously, they do not have a season money line record yet. The money line record, though, is just going to be their win-loss record as the season goes on. The Lions come into the season with a projected offensive rank of 5th, defensive rank of 6th. I don't think that defensive rank is going to hold, by the way. I think that is a lot of hopium. But that's what they're projected. The Packers come in 8-8 for the ranks. I think that is going to be higher. They have the number 5 defense from last year, and they just added Micah Parsons. They did lose their run-stopping defensive tackle up the middle. So I think that part of what this bet is for me, that's a few things. And again, Ted is going to disagree with me on some, agree with me on others. One, do we see year 3 breakouts from J-Mo and Laporta? I think we do. I think both of those guys are tremendously talented young players in the position. I think Isaac Tesla as a addition to that receiving core is wonderful. So we have a loaded receiving core for the Lions, 2 of which are poised to take a leap. And then this is more my bet, right? I know that they lost center Frank Ragnow. I believe they lost guard Jonah Jackson to the Bears. But I think this Packers team is vulnerable to the run. I think their secondary is tremendous. Their pass rushing is tremendous, but they just lost their dude up the middle. I think they can be run on. And if I had to guess, if you're a new offensive coordinator, you're in a system, you're not going to be as creative as Ben Johnson. What are you likely to do? What is the easiest way to generate yards? I would argue the single easiest way to generate offensive yards in the entire NFL right now is to dump off passes to Jahmyr Gibbs, to hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs. Last year, Jahmyr Gibbs on passes behind the line of scrimmage averaged more yards per reception than Amon-Ra St. Brown did. His average depth of target was 7 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs was 0.1. And he averaged more yards per reception than Amon-Ra. If you have a team that is vulnerable on the ground, and if you have an offensive coordinator that is willing to leverage Jahmyr in a way he simply has not been thus far in his NFL career, I love it, dude. I love the Lions offense this year. I was picking at them left and right in fantasy. One slight area of concern for me is Jared Goff's worst stadium of his career by far is Green Bay. Now, typically those come in the second half of the season when the weather gets bad, but he tends to, if Jared Goff is going to have his worst games of the season, it almost always is going to occur in the Green Bay arena. So that is the only thing I'm a little bit hesitant about. I'm curious how much Ted weights that. But on the other side, dude, you have Jaden Reed is banged up at the minimum. He looks like he might miss. I think you have Dontavian Wicks is still down. Romeo Dobbs down too?
No, Romeo's playing.
No, he came back. He had some weird shit last week. Um, I just, dude, like, I think the Detroit defense is much healthier. Like, there are a lot of factors here that I think we've jumped the shark on the Packers a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to last year, right, I get these are two different teams, but the Lions pimp smacked the Packers twice in a row. It was not close. The Lions were widely accepted to be the best team in the NFC until the playoffs. Obviously, they dealt with injury last year. You lose your offensive and defensive coordinator. It's going to be, I think, a more bumpy ride for the Lions than it was the previous 2 years. But I think that the market has just way overcorrected on this Packers team right now. They lost Jair Alexander in the secondary. They lost Kenny Clark, who helped them stop the run. And what they did is they added Micah Parsons, who I get he's a huge name. He's an elite passer or pass rusher, right? And that's exciting. But that being said, the Packers were not a pass rush specialist away from a Super Bowl run. They just weren't. I think this is going to be very disappointing for them. And now that they're paying Micah $46 million a year, that's quarterback money. You're paying like big time quarterback money to two players on your team, one of which Jordan Love, who has had eight good games in his career, and the rest of the time has been average to bad. I can't get there on this Packers team and where the market is with them. I think they're a one and done in the wild card personally, unless that's with the caveat of Jordan Love staying the same. If Jordan Love improves as a passer, his decision making improves, and they get something from Golden, right? The Packers for I guess a long history, or I guess like for a great portion of history, have kind of been this team that doesn't really take big swings at players, right? There was the whole meme about Aaron Rodgers not having a first round receiver to throw to his entire career in Green Bay. For all of that, like the Packers came out and took a big hack this year with taking Golden in the first round, with doing the deal for Micah Parsons. So I think they're trying to make a run here. I just don't know if they're betting on the right group of guys. To me, I just cannot get there. I cannot get there with even the Packers being favorites in this game. And like we're going to be telling you guys all year, if you prefer a side that's an underdog and the line isn't significant, right? Right now, the Packers are 2.5 point favorites. Just bet the Lions on the money line. You get more money, and in the only situation it hurts you is if the Lions lose by specifically 1 or 2 points. We think they outright win the game. Lions money line here with full confidence. I think that's why we have 75% of the dollars too on the money line because that's what the smart people are doing if they like the
Yeah.
Lions side.
Real quick, you have to bust out. It's my favorite quote you had last year about trends in the league. What did you say about Jordan Love when I said I think he's just injured? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, an injury doesn't cause you to make stupid decisions, which is what
Injuries
that guy
don't
is.
injuries don't make you stupid. You can't fix stupid. You're like he just has that thing in him, which I kind of admire, dude. Like he's kind of like the quarterback equivalent of like a golden retriever. You know what I mean? He's just like dopey and doing stuff out there, and it's fun to watch. He's fun to hang out with on a Sunday. Like I get excited to watch Packers games, but you're gonna see like one or two things that are absolutely out of pocket, like
Yeah.
per game.
Dude,
Yeah.
I remember all last offseason we had to deal with the Jordan Love is a top five quarterback in the league conversation. We had to deal with Jordan Love is clearly better than Brock Purdy, and if you don't agree, you're a donkey takes. I don't know how much longer we have to see Jordan Love put the product out on the field that he does in order to kind of get the market caught up with where I'm at with it.
What do you think? What do you think this year in terms of, let's say, like, combined passing yards and passing touchdowns? If we're going to roughly rank quarterbacks at the end of the year, if you had to guess, where do you think he's going to fall by the end of this year? Like for overall quarterback rank?
I think if
To
he
me,
doesn't hit 4,000 yards, it's a disappointment. I think if he doesn't hit 30 touchdowns, it's going to be considered a disappointment with this team. So take that for what you will. I think he probably goes lower than those figures. Remember at the end of last year when Jordan Love was blowing so many games that the Packers became the highest the
yeah,
highest rushing team in neutral game script in the entire league. The Packers said, "Hey, we're not going to let you blow this. We'll give it to our best player, Josh Jacobs, and let him like put the game on ice." So I don't know, man. We'll see. There's things to like about the Packers, but you look at their secondary without Jair, they have like Nate Hobbs back there. They got kind of like a dumpy team. They got a dumpy defense in Micah Parsons. I think this could go poorly for the Packers here long term. They could be in that Saints situation we were talking about earlier, where your books get screwed up on paying the wrong guys and you're just resetting. I know the Packers haven't reset in a long time, so that's kind of getting way out in front of it, but we'll see. I think that's more likely than a Super Bowl for them. That's for sure. All right, next one. We're both on this one as well. Second free Tendies fantasy consensus of the week. We're taking the Ravens going into Buffalo and beating Josh Allen and the Bills. The Ravens are minus 1.5 point favorites right now. Important to note, the Ravens were like 2 point underdogs pretty much leading all the way up until this week. So I think the market finally kind of caught up with where we've been on this game a large portion of the time. Looking at the betting figures here, 54% of the total bets against the spread are on the Ravens, and 68% of the dollars bet against the spread are on the Ravens. So we have a whale lean here coming in on Baltimore, which I think is smart. They're riding with us. And last year, the Ravens ranked first in offense and fifth in defense, so they're just excellent all the way around. On the other side, the Bills ranked fourth in offense and third in defense. So this is, by all accounts, I think the game of the week here. It's going to be great TV on Sunday night, opening week. Everyone's going to be glued to their couches watching this one, but I think we have a little bit of conviction here. So I called this game a ball knower quiz because I think that a lot of people are going to want to bet on the Bills here as underdogs because Josh Allen's an underdog. That's a pretty traditionally, if you see Josh Allen as an underdog, you'd want to smash it. But I think that there is the largest like gap in talent between these two rosters right now. The Bills, I know it says they ranked third in defense last year. I think this is a middle of the road to bad defense. They're out there. They got DeMar Hamlin starting at safety. Who, I mean, great for him. He's a great comeback story, but he's not a very good football player. The whole thing about the Bills last year was they had a terrible rush defense. They could not stop the run. On the other side, you have Derrick Henry, the 32-year-old tank that just keeps going. I just don't. When I look at this game, right, I have to ask myself, who do I think is more likely to get a stop? A Ravens in one of their I think after like week 6 last year, they were ranked the first defense overall in the league in yards allowed. Like, who do I think is more likely to get a stop here, the Ravens or the Bills? I look at the Bills side. You have Khalil Shakir, who's I believe he's going to play coming off a high ankle, but we know what high ankle does to players. Shiftiness, and especially with the type of player he is, right? Khalil Shakir is all yak. I think he's going to be 70% of what he usually is, right? And the Bills just don't have anyone else really. Like they're asking Keon Coleman to operate as their X wide receiver. I mean, he's okay. I like Keon Coleman. He gives a great interview. I don't know how great he is at the sport of football though, right? You got who else? They brought in who else did they bring in, Yanni? Is it Josh Palmer?
Uh, Josh Palmer, who
Yeah,
actually got the second biggest contract of any receiver this offseason.
yeah, so there's the difference of rolling out there. You got Josh Allen with like a hobbled Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Josh Palmer. And on the Ravens, on the other side, right, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Zay Flowers, you have Mark Andrews, who even though I think he's lost a step, he's still a solid player, right? You have Rashad Bateman. I just think that from a weapons standpoint and just overall roster build, this is not close to me. And the only way the Bills are going to keep this game close, and I think that it will be close, but the Ravens will cover, is Josh Allen just has to be Superman. This is like this version of the Bills team outside of James Cook reminds me of like the LeBron teams when he was on the Cavaliers, like dragging Matthew Dellavedova to finals, right? Or the J.R. Smith. I think the rest of this Bills team is just so Josh Allen reliant that it's going to be hard for him to beat a complete team like the Ravens with a comparable quarterback on the other side. What do you think, Yanni? How did you reach the same side as me? I guess because you're not fading me here.
So, one, I think this number is purely a reflection of the immense respect that Josh Allen has in the league. Um, Patrick Mahomes is right there. I think Lamar would be if the team wasn't around him, but you're talking about like one of two or three guys who is viewed as a football team unto themselves. Like it's like, hey, Josh Allen's out there, the game's within 2 points. That's crazy to me. So because Shakir, high ankle sprain. Yak guy, like you said, probably not going to be 100% for 4 to 6 weeks, if at all, this year. Keon Coleman, multiple limited practices this week. There was question about whether or not he even goes or not. So there's a scenario in which their number one operating receiver out there is Joshua Palmer. Not ideal. Cook coming off of a holdout all summer, probably going to see a dip in production for 2 to 3 weeks, like we've seen from every single major holdout player the last few years. Um, then you're talking about on the defensive side, I believe 3 members of their secondary are on the wrong side of limited coming into this week for the Bills. So you may have them down 3 out of 5 secondary starting secondary members between their slots, their safeties, and their corners. Dude, like and you're talking about the team with the projected number one overall offense who got better this offseason, I think, in my opinion. They didn't necessarily, did they make any big moves? Not really, but Mark Andrews had a car crash and the hip drop tackle surgery, the tightrope surgery he had last year. I expect him to look better. They had DeAndre Hopkins as a wide receiver 3. He was productive last year. I mean, he's not like, incredible or whatever, but he had stretch. Like if he's your wide receiver 3, probably coming in to catch some fades in the end zone, like, yeah, sure. Derrick Henry didn't show a sign of drop. Keaton Mitchell, who averaged, I believe, 7.1 or 7.4 yards per carry as a rookie. He blew out his ACL because he was flying at like 50 miles an hour down the sideline. I love the kid as a player. He looked tremendous in the preseason. Does he add an element of pass catching out of the backfield that they didn't really have in spades last year? I know Hill's a good pass catcher, but not like Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's a special player, I think. So yeah, man, like I personally, I think the game might be ugly. And I think it is only a function of the incredible respect that Josh Allen commands and deserves that it's projected as close. And if that's the case, I think Lamar is, maybe he's not quite Josh Allen's level, but he's 97% of it. I think this is a very easy bet. I would be surprised to not see this everywhere on people's like bets of the week. They're big.
Yeah, this is my bet of the week personally. Is this your favorite one?
No, my favorite one's the Cardinals -6.5.
All right.
Dude, I will be betting against the Saints in perpetuity until something really changes. I'm just gonna open the week. Do you remember Bryce Young's rookie year? I just would open the week and instantly my first bet would be whatever the spread is against Bryce Young. I think until further notice, I'm gonna open the week. I'm gonna look at the spread and I'm gonna bet against the Saints. So yeah, but
I
this is my second.
that's fair. For me, this is a must play. I think this is like
Yeah,
if you're a
yeah,
guy who is only going to bet one game and bet a high dollar
yeah,
amount on a game, right, which is probably more suggested than betting 5 games like a total degenerate like we do.
yeah,
I would pick this Ravens team. I truly think this is a ball knower quiz, and the line is short because of Josh Allen. You
yeah.
obviously you run the risk of getting Josh Allen, which it happens sometimes. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes you get Josh Allen, but I think just from a process and overall like football knower bet, you should be playing this Ravens side here.
Yeah, dude, he's going out there. He's going to rely on Kincaid and Joshua Palmer to anchor his passing game. That is just a tall freaking order, man. I
They
don't
need
know.
to go get if things go south in Miami, they should go get Tyreek for
Yeah,
Josh Allen. Can you imagine?
or DJ Moore. DJ Moore from the Bears, dude. If they hate each other over there in Chicago, let's get DJ Moore to Josh Allen and see what happens.
And speaking of the Bears, last game of the week, this one's mine, and I'm riding with the Vikings going into Soldier Field and beating the Bears. The spread is -1.5 points. I've fallen into another fade the public position. I didn't look at these early, so I'm not doing this on purpose. It's just kind of what's happening. 45% of total bets against the spread or against the Vikings, but 56% of the dollars bet are on the Vikings here. So like the majority does not agree with this bet, but the big betters are kind of coming on this Viking side with me, which I appreciate. Then on the Bears end, they ranked 10th last year in the league in offense, which that's staggering to me. I don't know how that was a top 10 offense last year in any way, shape, or form. And they ranked 16th in defense last year. I know that they had a really strong start to the season and just kind of petered off on that 10-game losing streak where Eberflus got fired. You had Thomas Brown in there. It was just a mess. So I think this version of the Bears will be better, but I'm still taking the Vikings here, and I feel like I have to do this, right? Last year, like I was saying earlier, I just kept getting killed and killed and killed on this Vikings team, fading them at every opportunity I could. Every week, I'd come up with a good reason why this was the week to bet against the Vikings, and I just ate shit over and over and over again. And it caused me, they say insanity is when you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. But I'm a stubborn guy. But after just taking an absolute beating last year, I had to like take a step back and evaluate like what this Vikings team is. And I just kind of came to the conclusion that this is a top tier roster in the league. Like I don't think anybody really saw it like that. There's a lack of big names on that defense. So I think people were inclined to call their defense bad. They had Sam Darnold at quarterback, so I think people were inclined to fade Sam Darnold. But the fact of the matter is they have one of the best in the league doing it right now, and Justin Jefferson out wide. You have Kevin O'Connell, one of the best offensive minds in football, in my opinion. Every quarterback that's played under him has returned at least some value. You have a defense that graded near the top of the league last year in most metrics. You have a great offensive or defensive mind in Brian Flores. Even though I call him a blitz merchant, that blitz merchanting worked last year. And then to top it all off, the Vikings are rolling out JJ McCarthy this year. That was like the big decision for them in the offseason. With Sam Darnold having the season that he did, there was a lot of people, especially early on, that were expecting the Vikings to re sign him to a large deal. They said no thanks. We want to see JJ out there. So they let Sam Darnold walk, and we're seeing our first JJ game, which I'm excited about. I think the best case for this player, JJ McCarthy, and what I think the Vikings are looking for is like a mini Brock Purdy. And I don't say that just because I'm a Niners fan. I say that because of like his football mind, right? He's great in between the ears. He was coached under Jim Harbaugh. He kind of makes those intermediate throws with accuracy. He's not gonna freak out like Sam Darnold does sometimes. At least I don't think. And he's going against a team in the Bears that I know a lot of people are excited about, right? Caleb Williams is still viewed as like a high upside generational talent. You have the most exciting head coaching hire, I think, in like the past couple of years in Ben Johnson coming to town, right? There's a lot of excitement about Colston Loveland and the Bears' weapons, but really they didn't show me anything last year as a heavy Bears bag holder in fantasy and having to watch so many of their games last year. It was just a kind of a broken product. And I don't know if I can get there saying this is even a 1 point game between these two teams from last year, and when I think that the Vikings got better at quarterback. So for me, this is just kind of a process play. I'm willing to fade the excitement on the Bears and wait a couple of weeks to see how that looks. I'm not saying the Bears are bad. I just think this Vikings team, if JJ ends up being a baby Brock Purdy, they could be a NFC champion dark horse. I mean, they won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold. Like, is it gonna get significantly worse with a top 10 draft pick? It could potentially. I don't know. None of us have seen him, but I would bet that he's better than Sam Darnold. What do you think, Kiriani?
Yeah, so I was a really big JJ McCarthy fan. I don't know if you remember, like last year going into the season, I said that I thought there were so many good quarterbacks in the draft that this draft class will fundamentally alter the path of the NFL. Like I thought if you add five starting quarterbacks to the NFL, all of a sudden everything's different. And like, dude, JJ McCarthy to me in a lot of draft classes would have been a top five pick. It was just so loaded. You know, you had these other monsters up there. Um, so I love JJ McCarthy. I have a real good friend who's a Vikings fan, and he insists that this is a B plus version of Josh Allen. I think they need to chill out a little bit with that. But you know, he has a really big arm actually. If he figures out how to layer and time those intermediate throws, which he wasn't asked to do a ton in college, but I think he has the propensity to do, like the ability to do. Yeah. Um, so these two coordinators know each other really well too. These coaching staffs know each other really well. Because Ben Johnson and Flores, I mean, how many times have they played? 4 times the last 3 years, 6 times the last 3 years. Um, I think there's a lot of familiarity in the matchup. It kind of freaks me out a little bit. The Vikings allowed top 3 points fantasy production to wide receivers last year, which is just basically a proxy for production to wide receivers. So they're vulnerable to wide receivers that go off. Very curious to see what Ben does there. Very curious to see how Luther Burden changes the team. I like so based on last year's results, right? This should be like a 6.5 point spread for the Vikings if you just copy and paste last year to now. So I think the numbers are showing a lot of like deference and respect to Ben Johnson and to the new look Bears, which I is warranted. Dennis Allen too, tremendous D coordinator. Um, so yeah, I think the process is correct. I think almost everything you said is correct. I was just too scared to bet it. It's a divisional game with a bunch of unknowns again. Huge coaching staff for turnover, not huge roster turnover, but some significant roster turnover, especially on the side of the Bears and the Vikings. They added multiple linemen. I Yeah, it was just too much to balance for me to come up with an opinion. And I wanted to have action on this game because I'm so excited about both of these quarterbacks and offenses. You and I have been going pretty heavy in fantasy too, or at least I have. Certainly on the Bears, I know you have some action on the Vikings too. Like I just very excited about both teams. I wanted to have a stake in this. I could not come up with a solid feel for the game.
You know what I
So,
think it is for me? I think it's that until he shows me otherwise, I'm just going to assume Caleb Williams is bad. I'm just going to assume Caleb Williams is not good until like cuz we were waiting all last year for Caleb to like look good and look like he paid off. It was this generational talent. It looked really terrible last year. I get that there were reasons why that's the case, right? Like his offensive line looked terrible. He could never had any time to do anything, but against this Vikings defense, that seems like a tall task. I know that there are numbers, like Ben Johnson had some of the most success against the Vikings defense last year than any other team. So little tough matchup there, but it's not within 1 point to me. I don't think. Could be wrong. Maybe JJ shits his pants like in prime time, and I lose here, but I like the bet.
So just based on what you said, I'm curious because I see a lot of parallels between these two teams, like a lot actually. I sort of have this like archetypical conceptualization of them as like the same thing almost, which is weird. Maybe I'm wrong. I assume you like the Vikings' chances of making a conference championship way more than you like the Broncos' chances of making a conference championship.
Yes.
And is that just because of the conference, the differences in conferences, or do you view those two rosters as fundamentally separate, like not in the same ballpark?
I view the Vikings offense as having a higher ceiling because you have Justin Jefferson there, right? Like Cortland Sutton, he's operating as a wide receiver one in that Broncos offense, but I like what the Vikings have to offer a lot more. And I
Okay.
guess it's more projection on JJ panning out, right? Like I think that Bo Nix at a minimum, like, is an average starting NFL quarterback, right? Average to good, I would say, with maybe some upside to be like a great quarterback. Who knows? But yeah, I do see a lot of parallels between the two teams. I think that's a really good call out. They're kind of like a NFC version of the Broncos ish.
Yeah. I was just curious, offensive play caller, young quarterback. They both are built around the run this year. Elite defense, stacked division. Who knows what's going to shake out there? I was just interesting
Maybe,
to see which one.
I don't know. That's a good. I'm glad you pointed that out because maybe I just view the Broncos as being like a really wide team. You know what I mean? Like build tall, not wide. Maybe I'm just viewing them as a wide team when I should be giving them
Right.
more respect. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like in the AFC West, like, do you think the Broncos like are the second best team or the best team there? Do you think they actually have a chance? 'Cause I guess
Well, real quick too. Like as much as I like the Broncos, what dude? There is no discussion between Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram, and Marvin Mims Jr. versus Jefferson, Hawkinson, and
Addison when he's back.
yeah, dude, like that's a Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson is one of the great three receiving trios across the tight end and two receivers in the NFL, and has the chance to be historically great. I mean, Addison's a double touchdown guy, right? Every year, he's had at least 900 yards and like I think 8 or 10 touchdowns a year since he's been in the league. So yeah, I mean, I think what you said is correct. But how do I see the AFC West? Dude, I don't know. It's just how vulnerable are the Chiefs is my only question. Dude, so I'm so excited about the AFC West this year. Is that not the greatest coach division in the history of the sport? Maybe in the history of American sports, major American sports of the big three. It has to be, right?
Yeah, it
Dude,
became like a arms race. Like I think once Reed was there and kind of dominating, everyone was like, we need to be up to this level to compete.
so
So
like here's my thing. Reed is above Belichick all time for me. It's not close. Like I'm taking Andy Reid over Bill Belichick. To me, the results are in about whether or not it was the Brady or the Belichick era. Ultimately, in my mind, it was the Brady era there, and he's floundered ever since. And he floundered before him. I mean, he did win a Super Bowl, I think, as a defensive coordinator in the '80s. So I have Reid as the greatest coach of all time. I have Spagnuolo as one of the five best defensive coordinators of all time. Okay. That's on one thing. Then you have Super Bowl champion Sean Payton, who's one of the highest paid coaches of all time, who's one of the great, who turned around a horrific Jim Harbaugh, who is one of the winningest coaches in the history of the NFL and as a college championship. And then you have the worst coach in the division is Super Bowl champion, multiple Super Bowl appearing Pete Carroll with Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator. Dude, that's it's just incredible. It's incredible. We're incredibly fortunate to get to watch such good football this year. And I think we saw the first iteration of it last night. How good of a game was that, dude? Like, it's so cool. So I don't know. Yeah, you're asking like, what do I think of that? I don't know, but I do know this. If Sean Payton can bring that Sean Payton style of running to Denver, and if they play defense like that, if you have a defense like I think Denver has, and if you have an O line like I think Denver has, I think you can beat any team in the NFL, any team, because you can play keep away football. Bo Nix does not have to go out there and beat Lamar Jackson. Bo Nix does not have to go out there and beat Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, or Justin Herbert. He doesn't. The defense does. And that defense is, dude, that defense has every ounce of juice to do so. They added Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. Like, yeah. I'm just excited. Just excited. If you had to bet money, say two teams, one makes a wild card, one wins the division, who takes the AFC West this year? And then
Char-
who makes the wild?
I think the Chargers take it this year. I think they're
You
gonna
think
do it. Yeah,
oh God,
they
okay.
they already have a game in hand, right? Like you have 6 weeks minimum without Rashee Rice. It looks like Xavier Worthy might be down for the count. Like I don't know. That Chargers team looked good to me last night with Justin Herbert slinging it like he was. I don't know.
And
Maybe it was lucky.
who would be the wild card out of there, do you think? I'm
I think
assuming
they
it's
get
obvious.
three in. I get the three. I think Chiefs and Broncos would be wild cards. But then like if you're the Broncos, you're going to Buffalo or you're going to like Baltimore, and it's like, am I gonna pick like the Broncos over the Ravens or the Bills? Maybe. We'll see how they look, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
So exciting, dude. Yeah, well, because you know a wild card's not coming out of the East. You know a wild card is not coming out of the South.
Yeah, no shot.
So, yeah. So like, yeah. Is it the West? Is it the North? Maybe.
I'll tell you this: I certainly don't think it's the Steelers this year.
No, no. To
Fuck
me,
no.
it's the Bengals. To me, the Bengals will be in the contention, but do they have the defense for it? I just don't know.
All right,
Very cool.
that's going to do it for us. If you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It helps the channel out. Let us know in the comments if you guys are riding with any of these picks or if you have different picks on your slate. We're kind of interested to see what the community is putting money on. And we'll catch you guys next week for the free agent fantasy episode.